Okay, and we're live. This is Oneness Talking Point with the magnificent Melanie Brockwell, episode 27. And for some reason, I called it Betrayal. You know, as in that's the topic that we're going to be talking about, you know, which is very interesting. And I guess it made sense at the time. I'm not sure what I had in mind. I don't kind of write out a schedule. I just type up the details that feel relevant in that moment. And then, we're off and running, just like pretty much everything else that we do, except we have this illusion that we're making a plan and sticking to it. And all kinds of things happen when we're trying to instigate that plan. For example, this morning I went in to check a link for what I originally called the Mystery of Mastery, which is where all the replays for the Oneness Talking Point webinars was going to be found. This kind of free online membership site, which just had the replays, the videos, the MP3 versions, and whatever PDFs and links to videos that I talked about, and all of your comments. And when I logged in to Kajabi, which is where I host that membership site, as soon as I logged in, there was a whole new facade that they had to take me through because so much had changed. So even when we've made these plans and said, this is what I'm going to be doing today in the productivity of my life, I'm going to be checking and updating links to things, making sure that they're going to where they need to be going and hitched to where they need to be hitched. And there are things, dare I say, beyond our control, that mean that when we get there to that point of doing, there's something else required, some prerequisite that means we can't start at 8 o'clock exactly, or we can't spend only 15 minutes doing that one task because there were unforeseen circumstances, which meant we had to update something first and then restart our computer, which, required a bookmarking of the 8 tabs that you had open, and the writing of notes and the recording of links, and the making of a list of something that you hadn't planned to do because you've just figured that you could step into the computer portal and do what you needed to do, but the computer knew that it had to do some update before it would let you go anywhere. So the letting go for me of that plan, that sense of the illusion of being in control of what it is that I'm doing, has never really been required because I've never really felt that I had control over anything. So when I explain myself and say, I'm not sure why I made the topic of this conversation betrayal, and I just followed what it was that felt like I was meant to be doing in that moment, and that I didn't write out a set of notes of why that's relevant and what it is I should be talking about, or what it is we need to be discussing, or what it is I need to be saying to you. And none of that really feels relevant to me. And I guess the question is, does it feel relevant to you? Do you feel like you need to write that list and have that very clear sense and be able to articulate that transfer of meaning from where you are to the people you call your audience? Because I guess even in that, for me, there's a sense as a writer and a speaker and a mentor and workshop facilitator and all the counselor and all the other things that I do, there's a sense that I'm not necessarily speaking for or to a separate entity that I can call an audience. So I'm just doing what I'm told in this moment, whether it's making that list of what the topics will be for these conversations or not attending at all, because you'll notice that there are a few episodes missing where I couldn't turn up for whatever reason. And, instead of getting really stressed out about it, I just follow those instructions and they say, not today, Miss Jane, so you just flow with that. And then at some point you might have a little bit of a fit about your inconsistency, or you might worry that people aren't going to turn up next time because of your inconsistency. And that too in itself is part of that instruction. It's what you're being told to do in that moment, is to have a little fit about that, and there's generally a voice that comes in for me that says, that's interesting. What does that mean for you? So even in having that fit, I have a sense of an opening of a page of how might that be relevant as being perfect for your purpose, rather than you're having a fit. Why are you attached to some other sense of the world being a way that it isn't, and that reprimand evaluation of what's happening, which is fine if that's the reality for you, because I think the point of all our conversations are about the reality of what it is for you, and that the fact that I stand in this space that accepts it as already on purpose. So even when I wasn't really thinking about betrayal this morning, in the 20 minutes I was kind of setting everything up, there was this momentary inspiration that said, what other people label betrayal, for me, is something else. So even in using the language, it might make sense to your experience. And then, maybe the point of this is for me to talk about the label that I use and how the difference in that label functions for us. And then, you can go off and have a think about, or a feel, or a meditation on where you use the word betrayal and where it carries you, because the concept for you has been labeled betrayal. And I know there's a temptation in there to want to change it now that you become conscious of the fact that you've labeled it betrayal, but I don't think it's the label that makes it meaningful in the way that it is. It's the way that it's meaningful that gives it the label betrayal. So simply switching a label isn't necessarily going to give you those outcomes that you're looking for when you're looking for different outcomes. I'm trying to remember what the different perspective of betrayal was for me. I think that the example that came to me was like betrayed by the body. That sense of the way you see yourself, and then looking in a camera or looking in a mirror, which for some reason are two completely different things. I'm not sure why that is. But say looking in a camera, which has particular lighting, especially in this room with crappy lighting, and feeling betrayed, that the face isn't reflecting the way you see yourself, almost as if you're unrecognizable. Not in that aphasic sense, or I can't remember what that other condition is where you think you've been put in someone else's body. Not to that extreme, but certainly a lack of being able to recognize the features looking back at you. And, for some people, betrayal would fit that, because the feelings and the meaningfulness of what is made of that lack of recognition takes you to a place of spite is the word that's coming up, but it's not necessarily what I'm feeling. I'm just going to see if I can close this curtain, because I just realised it's getting a bit bright in here. I don't know, because I guess there's two senses of the word betrayal. One is more that negative context, that someone has gone over some line or refused to live up to some agreement, friendship or loyalty or truthfulness. And the other sense of betrayal is neutral, how to betray the experience of, almost like a portrayal, betrayal can fit that sense of meaning just as much, just as well, within the proper context. And the assumption is that we're talking about the negative versus the neutral, which is interesting in and of itself, really. But okay, so maybe if I take it from where I'm standing, it will make more sense to me, and I'll find the language for it. I'm just looking at the water rippling towards the shore out in the river. For me, when I look at that reflection and hear the words or feel the words, the phrase, betrayal of body and unrecognizableness, unrecognizable self, I don't feel it as a negative. I don't feel it as a positive. I feel it as a what is. It is what is. There's a sense of betrayal that it doesn't look the way I feel, or it doesn't show everything, or it doesn't show a particular light, or it only shows a particular light. All of those things are relevant, really. And then, because it's neither positive nor negative, that takes me to a page of curiosity. So my curiosity would be taken to a place of, and so how is that intrinsic to the perfection of your wholeness? Because I know that there are other characteristics that I have, other propensities that I have, like if I'm out of contact with someone for a while, I wonder if they've kind of found fault with me. And I know that when I go to that place of curiosity, that page that opens up for me says, yes, that's part of your lack of expectation. So you don't expect people to be who they are and carry themselves into the next moment with the wholeness of who they were in the moment before. You understand that everything is moving in the universe. You understand that people are who they are in that photograph of all that is, only in that moment, and that everything changes in the very next moment. So you don't carry on these expectations that people will be who they were, which, taken to its other realities, includes, if I haven't been in contact with you for a while, you may not see me the same way, love me the same way, love me at all. And it's not a feeling of anxiety. It's uncertainty. And I know for many of us, those things are inseparable. You know, the sense of uncertainty makes us anxious. I think the only point where I can remember where that was true was in courtship. And I couldn't stand it. So I've never really been a courting kind of person. I'm just straight to the point of the feelings that I'm having, because I can't handle the uncertainty of that within that situation. The anxiety of it is just overwhelming. But most of the other uncertainties of my reality, as far as I can think of right now, are completely acceptable. They don't really have a sense of anxiety attached to them. Actually, I enjoy them. I find certainty frustrating. I find consistency aggravating. So, you know, my whole cosmology comes from an acceptance of my natural sense of what would make the wholeness of me perfect for my purpose. And so if I accept the aggravation with consistency, then as part of my purpose and my perfection and my wholeness and who I'm meant to be, then that translates into not a negative thing that I need to deal with. You know, that frustration is simply telling me who I am. And if I accept it as that, as information about who I am, and I accept that who I am is perfect, then I don't need to take it into that space where it's a problem. I can investigate it curiously and play with it and see it in a map of the wholeness of how I function. So, betrayal. If I felt betrayal in that negative sense and went, okay, then that's part of my perfection, where would I go with it? Where would my curiosity, what page would my curiosity open? I guess it would depend on the type of betrayal. Okay, so say we're talking betrayal of the body. How would I see it as perfect for my purpose? I mean, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is there is no body. I can't really fathom a separateness of body. So the first place it takes me is an awareness of the fact that the body is a notion inseparable from all the other notions. And its capacity or incapacity is inseparable from the perfection of the mission in the moment that I'm having. So if it's fatness or a headache or, the inability to walk or period pain or whatever it is, whatever that betrayal of the body is, I guess I instantly go to that place of how is that part of my perfection? And it's not a justification. I think, some people would naturally go there. It's an open question that there's not necessarily an answer to, and I'm not really looking for an answer. I'm looking to be in the space of curiosity about it if it was perfect for my purpose. And in that space of curiosity, I often get pictures and information, but not always. And I think the important part for me, the medicine in it for me, which is, for me, medicine is about wholeness. The medicine in it for me is simply being in that awareness of curiosity. What if it was an example of the perfection of my wholeness? How would I tell the story then? I don't need to ask the question, how would I accept it as being perfect for my purpose? Because that's more of a, how do I change my approach? How do I change my perspective? I'm just playing with an idea, and I'm kind of bypassing that practicality interface, which assumes that what I'm doing is wrong or that what I could be doing is better. So I'm kind of frog leaping that because it's irrelevant in the cosmology of oneness. It's irrelevant in my experience. The nature of what it is has already been accepted, even if the experience I'm having is a question of the nature of what it is. And I know that's the part that gets confusing. But that's the wholeness of accepting and allowing what is. It even accepts the question of allowing and accepting what is. And it confronts, it meets, it allows that question with curiosity, a curiosity that asks, what if my questioning of the acceptance of allowing what is was perfect for my purpose? And then without looking for an answer, I stay in this beautiful space and I don't know how to explain what it's like. It's just, you never feel the harshness of being told what to do differently. There's no sense of a you should in that space of curiosity. There's no sense of a hurry up and figure it out and find the answer and logic it. There's, even in the pain and torment of whatever's going on, that space of curiosity never pushes you out of it, never judges you as inadequate. There's no sense of waiting, like an impatience waiting for you to do it differently. There's no urgency. There's no weight that, as in, heaviness, telling you better things will come if and when. And it all depends on you. The whole point of that curiosity is you are exactly where you need to be. And sometimes it is painful and confusing and frustrating and isolating and all of the things that everyone experiences. It doesn't save you from anything. But the curiosity itself is a gentle space within which to have those experiences, a gentle space which says, this is where you belong. We're having this experience for a reason, not a reason that makes sense in the future, a reason that fits into a photograph of all that is in this moment. Everything is arranged perfectly as it needs to be. And it's not a reason that brings rewards. It's not a reason that says, if you accept and allow this and live in a space of curiosity, then you will get XYZ. It doesn't play that game, which feels very manipulative to me, which is another part of the cosmology making itself visible. Why does that feel manipulative to me? Because it's not part of how I allow and accept that everything is flow. It's not a rejection of that other way. It's simply making visible what is true for me rather than demonizing what isn't. So I'm not sure how helpful this is on the whatever preconceptions you have about betrayal. I'm not sure if it covers the topic for you. And if it doesn't, maybe you can let me know. Maybe you can comment or, share a video with me of what didn't make sense or how it makes sense to you, or all the arguments you have about what it is that I'm saying, or how I never even really covered the topic. Whatever you feel to say about the experience that you have while I'm blathering on about betrayal as a oneness talking point. I'd relish that. I really enjoy that. That's, I guess I don't need people to agree with me. I'm a bit more like is it Angel Fanuel? Probably not pronouncing that properly. I read some description of that this morning, and it reminded me of the way that I understand what angels are. They're the entities that provide a space of allowing. And you can confess and you can act out and you can do whatever you do, and the angels don't have any sense of judgment about that. They love you and they are able to be with you. They're not waiting for you to figure it out. They're not waiting for you to pull your head in. They just don't have that kind of a presence or perspective. They're not interested in pushing you to be something else. They simply want to love you as you are, where you are. And I think that's the role that I play when I'm counselor, for want of a better word. I call it oracle because it makes more sense to me. the one that sits and asks the questions that allows your truth to become visible, the one that sits and is able to be with whatever and wherever you are in this moment. That's my sense of the oracle role that I play when I'm having a session with someone in their language. So I don't expect you to be oneness. I expect you to be you, whatever that means in the moment that we have that conversation. So if you have any feedback or links or articles or videos you want to share with me that this brought up for you, or that you feel you would like to have as part of this conversation, then feel free to do so. This will be available on Google Hangouts, on the Webinar X replay, and I'll also be loading it into the Kajabi membership site for Oneness Talking Point. Excuse me, I have an itchy eye. And I'll try and get that new link out so that you can watch all the replays. Okay, I think that's it. All right, people, I love you, and I'll talk to you next month.